There was a specific day. You probably remember it, not because anything dramatic happened on that day necessarily, not because there was a single catastrophic moment that announced itself clearly as the thing that changed everything, but because something shifted in you on that day that has never fully shifted back. You trusted someone, completely, in the way that empaths trust, not cautiously, not with held back pieces of themselves kept safely distant just in case, but fully, with the specific quality of openness that only someone who feels deeply is capable of offering another person. And they did something with that trust that they should not have done. And you felt it, not just emotionally, in your body, in the specific physical sensation of something you had built carefully and offered freely being handled carelessly by someone who did not understand or did not care what it had cost you to offer it in the first place. And since that day, something has been different. You show up, you engage, you care about people, genuinely, deeply in the way you have always cared. But there is something behind it now that was not there before, a layer, thin enough that most people cannot see it, thick enough that you feel it every single time you start to let someone close. The part of you that is waiting for it to happen again. Stay with me. Because what Carl Jung discovered about what happens inside an empath the moment trust breaks, not just emotionally but structurally, in the deep architecture of how they relate to every person who comes after, is one of the most important things you will ever understand about yourself. And by the end of this, you will finally be able to name something that has been quietly running your relationships from the background for longer than you have been willing to admit. Carl Jung said that trust is not a decision. Not really. Not for the empath. For most people, trust is a conscious calculation, a gradual process of observing someone's behavior over time and adjusting accordingly. They trust more as evidence accumulates. They trust less when something happens that warrants caution. It is managed, measured, relatively within their control. But the empath does not trust like that. The empath trusts with their whole nervous system. When they let someone in, when they make the decision, conscious or otherwise, that this person is safe, they do not partially open a door. They do not leave a piece of themselves in reserve. They feel the person completely. They absorb their emotional reality. They invest in their well-being. They care about the details of their life with the same depth and attention they give to their own. Jung called this total relational immersion, the complete dissolution of the protective distance that most people maintain even in their closest relationships. And he said it is both the empath's greatest capacity for connection and the source of their most devastating injuries. Because when that kind of trust breaks, when someone is given that level of access and does something harmful with it, the damage does not stay in the specific relationship where it happened. It changes the architecture. But here is where it gets critical for empaths specifically. Because Jung discovered that the damage trust betrayal does to an empath is not the same damage it does to other people. For most people, a betrayal is painful and requires recovery time, and eventually you move forward, maybe more cautiously, but fundamentally intact in how you approach future relationships. For the empath, something different happens, because the empath did not just trust that person. They trusted their own perception of that person. They felt the person's goodness, sensed their trustworthiness, opened themselves based not just on observation, but on the specific interior knowing that the empath relies on, that deep felt sense that this is safe, this person is real, this connection is genuine. And when that felt sense turned out to be wrong, when the person they felt so clearly as trustworthy turned out to be someone who would use that access against them, the betrayal is not just of the relationship. It is of the empath's trust in their own perception. Jung called this the double wound of the sensitive soul, the external wound of what was done, and the far more lasting internal wound of no longer being certain that what they feel about people is reliable. No longer being sure they can trust the thing they have always used, most fundamentally to navigate the world, themselves. Listen carefully to what happens next, because this is where everything shifts. Jung documented what the empath does after this happens, and it is not what anyone around them usually notices. From the outside, the empath looks the same, warm, present, engaged with the people in their life, but internally something has reorganized. The empath has built something Jung called a secondary perception filter, a layer of unconscious monitoring that now runs beneath every relationship they have. It is not cynicism. It is not distrust in the obvious sense. It is more specific than that. It is the part of them that used to feel someone and simply know, this is safe, this is real, now questioning every knowing. Is this right? Is what I am feeling accurate? Is the warmth I sense in this person genuine, or am I missing something again the way I missed it before? And because the empath sensitivity is so finely tuned, because they feel everything so completely, this secondary filter does not create distance. It creates exhaustion. The exhaustion of a perception system that was designed to receive openly, now running a simultaneous verification process on everything it receives, feeling and then doubting the feeling, knowing and then questioning the knowing, connecting and then checking the connection, over and over in every relationship, without anyone seeing it happening. But here is the part that will absolutely change your life, because Jung found something underneath the filter that most empaths spend years not being willing to look at directly. Grief. Not anger, not bitterness, not the hardness that people assume betrayal eventually produces in sensitive people. Grief. Specifically, the grief of losing a version of themselves that existed before the trust broke. The version that trusted fully without the secondary check running. The version that felt someone and simply opened without the immediate quiet question of whether the feeling was accurate. The version that did not know yet what it felt like to offer their whole perception to someone and discover that perception had been wrong. That version does not come back. Jung was honest about this. He did not promise the empath who had been betrayed that they would eventually return to the openness they had before. He said something different. He said the openness they had before was not the destination. It was the starting point. And the destination, the place the empath who has been through this and processed it properly eventually arrives, is not the same innocence they had before. It is something more valuable than innocence. It is discernment. Here is what discernment actually looks like, and why it is different from what the empath is currently doing. The secondary perception filter the empath builds after betrayal is not discernment. Discernment is conscious, chosen, applied wisely to specific situations rather than running automatically on every relationship, regardless of whether it has earned that level of scrutiny. What most betrayed empaths have instead is automatic vigilance, the hyper-awareness that cannot be turned off. That treats every new person as a potential version of the one who hurt them. That searches for evidence of danger in relationships that have not yet done anything to warrant that search. Jung said that the difference between discernment and automatic vigilance is the difference between a gate that opens and closes by choice and a wall that simply stays up. The wall feels safer for a while, but the empath behind a wall is not protected. They are isolated. And isolation, for someone built for the depth of connection the empath is built for, is one of the most psychologically damaging states they can exist in long term. So what actually moves the empath from automatic vigilance back toward genuine discernment? Not time alone. Not telling yourself to trust people again. Not finding one good relationship that eventually convinces you the world is safe. Jung was specific about this. He said the empath must do something that feels like the most counterintuitive thing possible after a betrayal. They must grieve the version of themselves that trusted without the filter. Not try to get that version back. Grieve it. Acknowledge that it is gone, that it cannot be recovered by finding the right person or having enough good experiences to outweigh the bad one. That the person they were before this happened is a person they no longer are. And then, from that grief through it, not around it, begin building something that was never there before. The capacity to be open and careful at the same time. To feel someone fully without immediately accepting that feeling as final truth. To trust their own perception, while also allowing it to be updated by evidence over time. Jung called this the integration of wounded trust, the process by which the empath does not return to who they were before the betrayal, but becomes someone who was made more whole by surviving it. Not because betrayal is good, but because the person who has grieved properly, who has felt the full weight of what was lost and chosen to stay open anyway, that person carries something in their relationships that the pre-betrayal version never had. The knowledge of what trust actually costs, and the specific quality of conscious courage required to offer it again anyway. The day you stopped trusting was not the day you became damaged. It was the day you became more real, more aware of what you are actually offering when you open yourself to someone, more clear about the weight of what genuine connection requires from both people involved. More honest about the difference between the relationships that deserve everything you have and the ones that deserve your warmth but not your full interior life. That clarity was not available to you before. And Jung would say, though it cost you more than it should have cost, it is one of the most important things you will ever know. Not because betrayal is a gift, but because the person who has survived it and done the interior work does not trust less. They trust better. They trust themselves first. They trust their perception without making it the final word. They trust people slowly and specifically, and with the specific eyes of someone who knows what it looks like when trust is being honored and what it looks like when it is being handled carelessly. And that kind of trust, chosen clear-eyed, given with full awareness of what it means to give it, is the only kind that was ever worth having. If this reached the part of you that has been waiting for someone to name what changed after the moment that changed everything, that part of you has been waiting a long time, not because you are broken, because what happened to you was real, and it deserved to be acknowledged as real. Share this with the empath in your life who has been different since a specific day they do not talk about much. They need to hear that the wall they built was not weakness. It was the most intelligent thing their nervous system knew how to do at the time. And that when they are ready, not before they are ready, not on anyone else's timeline, there is something on the other side of it that is better than what they had before. And subscribe, because what is coming next is for the empath who is ready to come out from behind the wall without pretending it was never necessary.